I'm Justin Snyder.
And I'm Stephanie Greenwood Snyder.
We're just an average, everyday couple.
But over the years, we've seen the incredible importance of building community together.
We'll be talking with friends and experts about their stories and experiences to help us learn and grow.
We don't want to just survive through life.
We want to intentionally thrive.
This is The Intentional Thriver.
Welcome back to another episode of The Intentional Thriver. Today is going to be a little different. This is going to be the first 7x7 that we do. Now, before we get to what a 7x7 is, because what is a 7x7? That's
Right.
weird. First of all, thank you guys so much.
Wow.
All the kind texts
So
and
kind.
messages and comments and
Yeah.
phone calls and feedback has been
A little overwhelming.
has been awesome.
Yeah.
So special shout out to the fans, all two of you out there. No,
No, it's been so
It
cool,
has been
to
cool.
reconnect with people,
Yeah,
to have people
yeah.
tell us, like, I'm having my teenage daughter listen to the way you're processing
Yeah.
through things. That was a heart. Wow. And then having other people apologize for different experiences, which was not our intention at all, but was
no.
such a cool way to reconnect and to kind of tell them, no, this wasn't our intention, but thank you for opening up this conversation.
Sure.
And having other people just share and say, this is something we're working through, and thank you for helping us process that.
And that's a big part, again, that we've said from episode 1 all the way through. Like, the point of these is to get conversations going, to talk to each other, to open up a dialogue about your experience, what you've come through, hearing from other people, opening up about their experiences and what they've learned. And one of the big things that we've talked about, and one of the goals of our 7x7s, is application.
Yeah.
Like, that is going to be such a big part
Huge.
of that, because, like, as you know, we get to talk to these people and it's so much fun and we get to hang out, but it's funny because when we go back and we edit them or listen to them or whatever, like, we're kind of hearing new things as well. We're kind of getting to benefit from, oh, that's a good point. Like, that's cool, and it's so much knowledge. It's so much information. It's a lot to process in one sitting, and so that's one of the goals of these 7x7s.
Right.
Is for us as a couple to kind of get to dialogue about that, about and process and work through. So, Stephanie, tell me, what is a 7x7?
Oh,
what does
wow.
that even mean?
Thank you for asking.
Hey,
Justin.
no problem.
No, this idea was birthed out of the realization that we get to ask people questions, that we get to have those really heart-to-heart conversations, come alongside them, hear their stories on how they got to whatever it is that they're thriving in. And we realized that that's something that Justin and I need to dialogue about and then adapt into our own family.
Yes.
Because the last thing we want to be is a cookie cutter of someone else.
Like the honeybee analogy from, was it the first episode?
That was a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good analogy.
Yeah.
But taking the nectar
That's
from
right.
the flower.
Yeah, it's not pollen. It's nectar. That's
taking
right.
the nectar. Well, you knew that.
I know.
And then processing it through and filtering it through.
That's right.
Worldview, filtering it through our values,
Right.
our priorities,
Our season of life, our
season of-
children's
yep.
seasons of lives, like that all plays into such a big aspect. And I think that's something that you and I have changed, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but I've changed so much in our 14 years together. And
Wow,
I
14
know,
years. Man.
it's unreal. 14 in August. And it's just so exciting to know that I didn't marry, the same man that sits beside me right now.
Oh, thank God for that.
I know, right? But
Man.
our values have changed. The way we process things have changed. And so that growing, thankfully, together has only come across a lot of conversations and a lot of arguments and a lot of asking forgiveness and a lot of reassessing. So I'm really excited to do these 7x7s with you.
So what 7x7? What is that actually talking about?
So 7x7s are 7 minutes of the last 7 episodes where we get to talk about how we're applying little nuggets from those episodes into our personal and day-to-day life.
Correct. But Stephanie, this is episode 10.
Right.
Why is
What
it a
happened?
7 by 7? That math doesn't work
It does
out.
not. Thank you. So we decided to take the first 2 episodes since they were
Correct.
just us and just do the 7 episodes that we had our guests with
Yes, so
us.
starting with episode 3, 3 plus 7 is 10.
Yes.
You guys got it. You can
Yes.
figure all that
Thank
out.
you.
But it's funny. Yeah, exactly. The application is such an interesting part because that looks very different couple to couple. I mean, it's funny, even as we were preparing and talking through this, like, even we had very different ideas for application coming into this conversation. So, mid conversation, we'd be like, no, that's not what it means for us. So you may see
We
some
have
sparks
talked
fly on this
beforehand.
one.
I do have my notes.
She has her
I'll
notes.
try not to make them loud, but yes, no, we did talk beforehand, but yeah, there was definitely some awareness of,
Yeah.
that's interesting that's how you
Exactly. But
digested
that's
that.
the cool part about it, is because now,
Yeah.
like, things that I didn't even think about or things that I might even disagree with.
Right.
Now that's opened the gates for us to be able to dialogue about that.
Exactly.
And be like, okay, cool. Why did you pull that application away from that? And what does that mean to you? Like, where has that come from? Is it
exactly
because something from your past that
Right.
kind of has made that, has triggered that a little bit? Or
Right.
like for me, and so it's like people are people and people are complex and, understanding again, that application. So again, 7 minutes, 7 episodes. It serves as a good like overview as well. If you're like, I don't really want to go back and listen to all the episodes, or maybe this is the first one you're listening to. Awesome. Great. Like listen through this. Yes. Welcome. He'll be our third fan. No, but like listen through and be like, oh man, I really, the episode about health, that really interests me. Boom. I'm going to go and dive into that one specific. Awesome. Great. Like this is meant as something to help get dialogue started for you guys in your relationships, in your friendships, in your lives, to find out what intentionally thriving means for you. So let's dive in. So we're actually going to start with episode 3.
Yep.
Which was the amazing Brian and Katie Saylor talking about why are people so frustrated with faith and religion. So we've got a timer.
Yeah.
We're going to hit it.
Go.
And boom, we're going to go. Ready and hit it. Okay. 7 minutes and counting. Let's do this thing. Okay. So starting with the Sailors, one thing that I really appreciated and that we've kind of talked through and processed about, because, episode 2 and 3, where 2, we kind of share our story. Our backgrounds were in religious organizations and things like that. And a lot of seeing unhealthy, toxic traits and things, unfortunately, and having to work through that and process through that. Like knowing that there isn't one specific denomination or group that has like a corner of that market on, again, whether it be toxic traits or unhealthy behaviors or abuse or, verbal, emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, all of those components. But understanding, again, and this is for us, the difference between religion and relationship. And Brian and Katie talked about that quite a bit. And I think they did a really good job. And even Katie was talking about culture and the part that culture plays in, especially like for us, we live in a westernized culture, the fact that sometimes the relationship aspect gets a little lost in the tradition aspect.
Yeah.
And so again, for us in our spiritual journey, like having a very personal relationship with God, with Jesus has been kind of our foundational piece in a lot of ways, to help us. And through that, kind of navigate through toxic behaviors and trying to identify some of that stuff. But again, like, it's not like we're going to sit here and say, this is the specific group that did this. So stay away from this one group, because there are many, 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 many groups out there like that. And just because they're, a group is affiliated with a certain denomination or has a certain title or whatever, does not automatically make that a healthy, good group.
Right.
And
And it's the reassessing, just like everything else. And I think we talk about, what about our kids come to us someday and say, "Man, why did you let us be raised in that
Yeah.
setting?" And that's heartbreaking for us to imagine, which is, I'm sure, where some of our parents stand.
Hmm.
And at that time, it's something that we have to stand before the Lord about. And I think
Yeah.
that it's just really important to reassess, to align our values, to make
Hmm.
sure that we're involved, make sure we're asking questions. Those things are just so important.
Yeah. There's a there's a documentary that came out pretty recently, um, that is about an
Yeah.
organization that you.
Yeah, what was we're raised in. Shiny Happy People came out,
Oh, you're
and
gonna say the name? Go
I
for it.
mean,
Okay,
that's the
go for it.
documentary.
Hey.
It's not a person or a
Yeah.
religious
Yeah.
group like we said we wouldn't say. But that documentary, literally, how far was I? 30 seconds into the first episode, and
Yeah.
I was bawling,
Yeah.
crying, because just the images triggered me
How
so
triggering that
much,
was.
because some of the things I'm like, that I thought that was my memory from the age of 9 to 18. I really
Yeah.
thought that I just, it's a blur. And I know my parents
Yeah.
weren't in it as heavily as some,
Sure.
for sure, and we did have different experiences, but at at some level, wearing skirts until I wore on my first pair of pants in college, things like that. Yeah, highly influenced by some of that culture.
Yeah,
So
but I mean, taking that same model, even when you watch something like a documentary or you listen to a speaker, whatever it may be, there's always a process of, what do we say, disentangling. There's
yeah.
always a process of going out and saying, what are the things that are true?
Hmm.
Because again, and working in film, we know this. Like, every documentary is going to be told from a certain perspective.
Absolutely.
Every movie is going to be told from a certain point of view. Like every story, that's just who
For
we are as
sure.
human beings. Like, we do bring our own perspective and
Hmm.
bias to the table when we're communicating
Hmm.
a story from that perspective. And so you
Yeah.
do have to go through and, again, ask yourself, like, what are my values? What's important to me? You're going to filter that through your
Yeah.
worldview. But again, I think it's very important, and why for us it's been very important to step back and say, okay, like the teachings of Jesus and this stuff, what is
Yes.
he actually saying?
Exactly.
Because again, I feel like so much of that, and again, the Sailors did a great job
Like,
talking about this, how much of that has been misused and abused
yeah.
from, just the absorption into a cultural Christianity, to the um abuse and desire for power, not even necessarily starting out with that goal. And
No, of course
oftentimes,
not. Normally.
these leaders oftentimes will have I won't say the best of intentions, but they'll have
Seemingly.
seemingly some good intentions beginning. But again, if you're not in a structure where you're
Accountability.
accountability and you have a good structure of polity, again, just a fancy word for like how you organize and structure your organization,
Hmm.
so that you don't become the sole you know uh, island in and of
Yeah.
yourself, so that you can't have other people and community, again, which is a theme that runs throughout
Yep.
this entire podcast,
Hmm.
the importance of community speaking into your life, both in a positive, like, hey, that's good way,
Yeah.
and in like, course correction, because you're heading toward a danger zone there.
Yeah. Well, I love what Katie said, is Jesus is often represented as, you fear me, truth, power, rules,
Yeah.
or a little wishy-washy, a little
They're
like
just like,
love
it's
covers
all
it all.
good, whatever
And
you want to do.
really, if we're constantly going back to the Bible and checking it, we should be asking ourselves, like, will the real Jesus stand up? Like, will the real Jesus show themselves? Because that is what
Yeah.
we need to center our lives on, and that's what we need to
Yeah.
center our belief system.
Yeah. And again, just, I think a big part of that comes from, again, in our opinion, our experience is from the relational aspect,
Hmm.
and taking time to like meditate on that, to take time to have realistic, vulnerable conversations with people that we love. And that's our time. All right, that's 7 minutes.
That's done.
Wow, that goes fast.
Woohoo!
Okay. But no, that was episode 3. with Brian and Katie Saylor. Why are people so frustrated with faith and religion? Moving on
Okay.
to the next one.
Okay, I just loved Sai. That was such a fun talk.
That was a lot of fun.
And man, did he share it with some bits of gold.
There was
like
good stuff in there.
Some
So much
really good stuff. And I think we kind of learned something to assess titling our episodes, because we definitely focused on like, oh, the Hollywood Stuntman. But like he just went in there about collaborating and working together and building each other up and goals and knowing like what is your why behind this. And I think that I just came away with so much respect for his industry, so much respect for him as a lead.
Well, for our industry too. I mean, we work
stunts specifically. Sure. No, but you're right. And so I think that something that I really took away from that in our marriage and in my team at work and stuff is that it's almost impossible, especially in a marriage, for people to give 100% constantly. You know, it is almost it is impossible. Brene Brown would say it's completely impossible. And so I think that it's just so important, that communication element, like, hey, can you help me come alongside and do this? Or to be realistic and say, hey, today I am at like 20-25%. Can you help me fill in the gap? You know? So I think that there's just so much benefit of that communication, of that dance together, that you need to be in the same foot, you know, the same lead with the same foot. I mean, you did more dance than I did. And, you know, you're going to step on each other's toes if you're not, you know, if someone's not leading, if someone isn't counting with the music, if someone isn't like right foot, you know, I think of The King and I and how like that song has that, shall we dance 1, 2, 3, you know, like
can you perform that for
on
us
a
right
bright
now?
cloud of music, shall we fly?
We only have 5 minutes and 3 seconds, so you can only do the first 2 verses.
Okay, I'm done. So anyway, I did love that he said that, and then of course the motivation factor. Like, if you're not here to have the same goals as me, then we will never dance. Like, we will never have a collaborative effort. You know, that will never happen. Yeah. So I think those are 2 things that I really came out with.
I think that 100%. I think that was a really good application from, you know, what he does within stunts into that exactly. I think as well, like a big thing for me that stood out, and it's funny because one of the episodes in the future that we're going to do kind of resolves around this idea of risks and failure and defining failure and what that looks like. And that's always been like a really big
for you
struggle for me, is like, I don't want to fail in this. You know, I don't want to like make a choice that is going to like derail my future and the goals. And man, if I mess this up, then, you know, X, Y, and Z, I've ruined my life, and all of these things. So first of all, defining failure, all these things. But I really appreciated what Sai was saying about like risks and taking risks. And, you know, like you talked about not being that guy who is in the nursing home years and years down the road. And like, man, if I had just tried a little harder, if I had just taken that risk. You brought that up
a couple of times.
Yeah. And I mean, that has really, like, even in the past several weeks since we did that one, like I've really tried that more and more. And that's put me out of my comfort zone. Yeah. And Stephanie will tell you quite a few ways. But it's cool because like you don't feel like, oh man, you're not wondering. You're not sitting there just wondering like, or being like, well, I could have been a big deal. I could have been successful if I had done this. It's like, really just, you know, if you think that, if you legitimately think that, then do it. Then take the risk. Absolutely. You know, try and do it with strategy. Do it with, you know, be wise in your decisions. Don't do something that's going to jeopardize or hurt your family or the responsibilities that you have, you know, been given with, the responsibilities that are immediately in front of you. But take risks. Yeah. You know, don't you have one lifetime to do this in?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
Right.
You
And
know?
I think a lot of it is, what are you believing in this moment? Like, I go to like the extreme worst case scenario, right? I'm
Mm.
like, oh my word, this is going to crash and burn and I'm going to cause shame to my family and shame to, yeah, that doesn't come from any background information that I was fed. But anyway, there's always fears behind it. And so like
Yeah.
going back to like the motivating factors, like, okay, why do I feel frustrated? Why do I feel stressed right now? Oh, am I taking on too much of that percentage, like in a collaborative field? Okay, maybe I'm only supposed to be giving 30% because the other person's job is the 70%. You know, even with this podcast, like we've had to find our roles and find like what we take ownership in. And that's been really good for us. And I think on the other side, assessing really good moments, like you just had a birthday, like we had a really good day, right?
It was great.
Where we've had some bad birthdays.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly mine. Because I had expectation that was not.
Were you thinking of the Chinese buffet time?
My first birthday, I crawled out of the window.
Do we have time for that minute?
Oh my
All right,
goodness.
we got a minute for 15. Go.
Oh my word. So Justin was like, for my first birthday married, and Justin was like, let's go do something fun. Let's go to a Chinese buffet. And I was like,
we were dirt
poor.
broke.
We had
oh my
nothing.
Word. We'll talk about that more in the financial one, but
I was like, no, used to lavish me on my birthday. It's my birthday.
She's from New England.
Oh my goodness, that's not why.
Lobsters.
Anyway, so like the fact that you first of all told me where I should go, and then second of all,
I said like, where do you want to go?
I know you probably
would
said
you
it.
like to go to a Chinese buffet?
Yes.
Which like again for us at the time was classy.
So it exploded, to say the least. I ran off to the bedroom to just pout.
Our tiny how big was our apartment?
500 square feet.
500 square foot apartment.
And I was so mad. I climbed out the window and just left. And poor Justin.
I didn't even know.
And then
like,
called my sister.
I didn't even know she could like you could get out that window.
I left the window open so
and
you
there
could
was
tell.
like no.
Oh my word!
There was only one way out. So I'm like, did my bride just like teleport out of this?
So Justin, I just saw him walking up to me in the dark. What just happened? I'll never forget that. Yeah. We actually had a lovely evening, went to small group.
And that's time.
It was wonderful. So understand
Take
motivation.
Risks, understand motivation, partner together.
That's right.
All right. Episode 5, right? Which was the honey cuts.
Oh.
Aaron and Janae. That was a fun one.
Wow.
They are some smart cookies.
They are. And just like the community in our personal lives have grown and like to know them at that level and to even start out that conversation and just to watch it again was so cool because you just see them relax and like, okay, these people aren't cuckoos. Like it was really totally fun. Cuckoo. And we kind of are, but they just have so much wisdom. I really am so thankful they're in our lives because
they're great.
They are.
I really loved about that conversation. Like they had so much practical application. And again, like pull out of that what you will, but I thought the one document was a great idea where they, if you didn't get a chance to hear it, it's like they both get together, they make this Google Drive document and they just, as they have maybe, mantras or ideas or philosophies or verses or whatever that kind of comes into their head, they're like, man, I really want to make that part of the importance of our relationship and goals and what we want to do and be as a couple. They put this in this document that they share and then they can go over that together. And then like doing weekly check-ins. That's something that we actually before
we
started doing that. Like it's hard to do it sustainably. That's something that we're working on is trying to like be sustainable with this, doing it at the same time on the same day. Because sometimes like we do ours on Sunday evenings and you're a little tired out.
Or you're going to work mode.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. It's like I got to work tomorrow.
No, I thought that was so good. And what I love about that is that it does evolve. Like we evolved. We've changed. Our thought process has changed. There was something very recently that we talked about that I think you just stopped in the middle of the conversation and started laughing. And you're like, can you imagine we're saying this? Like 5 years ago, we were so on the other side. We were so like polar against it.
Yeah.
I feel like I hope we've balanced out a little bit. I don't think we've jumped ships exactly.
No,
but
it's an eternal process.
Yeah.
And as you learn new things and as you get to, talk to more
Yeah.
people and try to understand
Right.
issues and things more.
I think that's a huge part of it, is that communication together. Like,
Yeah.
because if you don't, we're human, right? Like my 3-year-old, she's 3, what is not the same child she was last week. Like, to be honest with you, actually, my 1-year-old, this is great. He throws everything, right? Everything. Just he's done with this drink, boom. He's done with this, boom. Like, it's just incredible. I'm like, wow. The other day he handed me his glass, like, or his not glass.
There
obviously.
goes his baseball career.
I'm just like, so my child is different the next day. There's new things now. So
now he kicks everything.
But I'm just saying that's human nature. That's what we should want. That I want my child to grow.
Correct.
I want you to grow. It's
Correct.
a privilege and an honor to watch you grow. But I want to grow with you. And I think that is what that one document is about. It is about being on the same page. It is about communicating those changes. And then it is about making sure that you're growing together and not apart. Because that's so easy to do.
I wholeheartedly agree, especially when every person is different. Every person processes through things differently. Some people, we talked about extrovert, introvert, all that stuff, which again is a very extreme scale. Like we like to polarize it into you either behave this one way or you behave this way. And it's like, there is so much range within that of, introverted default, but has extroverted tendencies or ambivert or, whatever it may be. And like, for me, it was thinking back to like a couple weeks ago, my birthday, like you were like, hey, I know you love your family. I know you love your kids. I know, you love me, all those things. But like one of the greatest gifts that I can give you is to say, I'm going to put the kids to bed tonight. You go out, by yourself with the journal, go down to the lake, watch the sunset, and journal and have that time.
I also gave you time to go in the hot tub and take a shower. So.
Wow. Was it my birthday or something?
And did the dishes the next morning.
I know, man.
So it just kept coming.
I look forward to this every year.
No, but that's something I've had to learn over the years because that is not my perfect birthday.
No, it is not.
I mean, some of it.
It's at the Chinese buffet. Is your perfect birthday?
Is there anything else?
There is nothing else.
Anyway, but we cook together during nap time. Like that's really special.
Yeah.
And these days with 2 toddlers is very rare. So I think that making that purposeful, because those are what you enjoy and that's something that is life-giving to you, is something I didn't know 9 years ago, for my birthday, or how to ask for it. That's
great.
Sorry, I got excited there. Like that's a huge part of this journey is like how to ask for what you need or communicate. Like, this is gonna sound super selfish, but I need to go and peace out.
But I like need this.
Yeah,
I need this in order for me to thrive.
Yes,
for me to. Janae said it very well to, what did she say? To refresh my soul, to rest my soul. Am I caring for my soul? That's what she said. She said, in order for me to care for my soul, I have to have that time. And that's something that, again, like she and Aaron have had to talk through to figure out what that looks like. That's something that Stephanie and I have to talk through to work out. That's something that you in your relationship or friendship or family or whatever it may be, like, that's so important to kind of give yourself that self-diagnosis of what do I need? How am I refreshed? What are these elements and pieces? And then being very proactive about prioritizing that time. Because if it's like, oh man, well, I kind of hope I find some miracle minute to be able to do that, to go and journal.
Right.
If you're not intentional about it, it's not going to happen.
That's right.
It's not going to happen. So again, identifying what you need as an individual, being okay with that and not feeling like you're broken or messed up or feeling guilty because you need time by yourself or with people. And that's our time.
That's our time.
But like that's very important. I think they did a really good job talking about that and the boundaries of that as well.
Oh, you're sneaking it in.
Okay. All right. I got 5 more seconds.
Okay. Oh boy, the Brammers. I just could talk about money
So
all
Stephanie
day
just sent her
long.
timer to 30 minutes for this
I
one.
wish. I wish. It was so good, and it was so fun to talk about. Like, why can't we normalize talking about finances? Why can't we normalize
Yeah.
educating each other? Why can't we normalize, like, hey, what are you doing for your kids' college
Right,
fund or your
right.
kids'
Well,
retirement?
sorry,
Custodial
I want to let
IRA.
you talk like
Yeah. Look
99%
at
of
my
this time.
notes.
I know you have so many notes on this one, but really, to speak
Mhm.
into that, like as a culture, we wrap so much of our identity into money.
Mhm.
That's I think that's why it's hard to dialogue with somebody about
Sure.
like, hey, how much do you make? What's good? Because
Yeah.
if obviously someone who makes more or has more, it can be very easy for the person who doesn't make as much as
Right.
that person to feel like, man, what is wrong with me?
Right.
Like, or get jealous, or of like, man, that person's not as smart as I am. I should make that
Right.
amount.
Right.
Or
Ugh.
man, if only I came from that background or family, then you know what I mean?
And that is hard
And that is
because
hard. And because there
there
are
is some truth to
there is some
that.
truth to
Like,
that of like,
absolutely.
there are,
How to advocate
yeah,
for yourself. I was talking to someone recently and she was saying my son's going to make more than I do. Like, you made the way for your son to make
yeah,
more than you do. Like, bravo to you. I bet that sucks, but bravo to you,
yeah,
And so I think that there's so much education that is lost in this country.
sure.
And it's so hard because now we're on this side of it.
Yeah.
But when we were
Well, would you say it's changing too? Well, would you say that, like, especially with investment, IRAs,
sure,
accounts,
in some
inflation,
ways,
like,
but there's some basics.
yeah,
There's some basics, and I think that what I want to really emphasize is like knowing where you stand, knowing where your values are, which comes from education, of course. But are you okay with leveraging debt? Are you okay with paying off certain debts at a certain rate? Are you okay with weekly check-ins, monthly check-ins, daily check-ins? That's a little too much,
no,
maybe. Are you
that's a
tracking
lot.
your net worth? Are you tracking your budgeting? Are you an envelope person? Should you have a credit card, or can that not be
Yeah.
something that you can have? And that's okay. Like, these are all things that you
Yes.
can decide, you can talk to your friends about, but literally at the end of the day, it is your finances and it is your life that
Yeah.
you get to experience,
And you need to understand your goals. That's the
Absolutely.
big thing.
Yeah.
And I think Justin and
And
Anna
Anna.
did a good job talking about that. And like, you have to understand what you want.
Yeah.
There's a documentary, man, we're like
I
all about
know
documentaries today,
that rich.
on Netflix,
Yeah.
right?
Is it a
Like,
documentary or it's like
oh, it's
yeah, it's
like a
like
reality
yeah.
TV show
Your
almost.
Rich Life.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, but like that's the core
Yeah.
idea,
Right.
of like your finance
Right.
and your money, and understanding where is your value,
Mhm.
what's your priority,
Absolutely.
because all your decisions, like you're gonna put the statement, like you put your money where your mouth is, where your priorities are, that's where your money's gonna go.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think it's been really, really cool to look back at where we've come from. When we first got married,
Oh boy.
we had the classic amount of student loans. It was pretty
I mean,
high.
it was
Now
high.
looking back, you were
Well, there's
making
such a
quite a
range.
bit less on an
Oh
annual
man, we were
salary.
making
Less than we even
nothing.
thought we were making until I did the math.
Oh my goodness.
We had
Don't get me
literally
started.
$3,000 in our bank account
when we got married.
when we got married, and for some reason we thought that was good. Our highest asset was my ring.
I had the
By
paperwork
far,
for that sucker.
yep. Our car was one car. I'm on my first car of my life. Actually, it was your car. You're on your second car of your life.
Oh yeah.
So but that's something that we've had to find our what do we value? Cars are not something we value. Vacations, like at this point of our lives, like we'd rather go on vacations with our friends than by ourselves. It's just, you and I are not like,
at least for the seasons that
Exactly,
we've gone through. That's
yeah.
the thing, is like that hasn't been like, we've enjoyed what other people get out of vacations and going places. Like
Right.
we've enjoyed that in different ways.
And then this past year, like we literally, gave up both of our jobs, moved,
Yeah.
became renters for the first, not renters, landlords for the first time, became, moved states for the first time in our marriage. Like there was a lot of big, your career. We didn't know
Yeah.
what that was going to be. It takes 2 to 5 years to get into this career.
Yep.
My job.
And it's a wildly competitive career
Yeah.
too, even within that 2 to 5 years.
Yeah, my job was unexpected. So, a 9% inflation rate, like, come on.
Yeah.
So, but we did plan for it, and we did put the value into that as opposed to maybe some of the other things.
Yeah, but and massive kudos to Stephanie because she is a money brain. Like you are so good at having those hard conversations, being willing to to bring that up. I'm very thankful to have a partner like Stephanie in this. But can you talk a little bit actually about like how we were dirt broke. We had a very, very, very low income job, school debt, we're doing much, much better now.
Yeah.
And some of it kind of was what Justin was saying. I mean, just the way it played out, we had to invest more in ourselves, starting a company on the side so that I could actually do my other job because they would not invest what they needed to invest to actually do that job.
Right.
So, but yeah, how did you do that?
I mean,
in 30 seconds?
Yeah, we budgeted, we kept an eye on things, but then we did celebrate. We spent money on food.
We did.
That is our number one expense, besides mortgage. So I think that was huge. We were throwing money at our mortgage, which pros and cons, we were not buying a new car. We were not going on fancy vacations, but we enjoyed what we did do, and we made that decision together and we aren't resentful about it.
No.
And so I think that's what it came down to is our big term goals were what led us. And that's where we are now. So,
wow. I mean, I got 5 more seconds on the last one. Do you want 5 more seconds?
I mean, I could have 5 more years. No, I just think education is so important. And I think that money is something that you need to give yourself the grace to say, okay, I can't start at 20 anymore, which if you can help someone at 20 to invest their dollar bills, $1 is $88 when they retire, please. But we're not 20 anymore, You might be. That would be awesome.
Yes, but do it. When you are that age, please.
You might be 40, 50. Don't look at it from that perspective. Look at it from where can I start from today to make myself in a place where I can be successful in whatever goal that is. So
beautiful. Excellent. By the way, if you're watching the video of this, if you're just listening, this isn't going to make sense. You may have noticed Stephanie has a little owl tattoo.
You had to bring that up.
Oh, I totally have to bring that up because every time I look over, I see this blue cartoon owl tattooed on your arm. No, we were at a event at the park.
Pops at the park
with our friends yesterday.
Our
and
first
they have these little
annual event. We went to it last year.
That's right,
it was our first thing we did at our church, and this is the second one.
It was so cool with community. Anyway, so
yes.
if you are watching it and you're like, what is that on Stephanie's arm? That is a temporary tattoo.
Right.
But hey, you may make it permanent.
I mean I'm kind of loving it.
It's, those eyes.
And if anybody knows what a temporary tattoo takes, I put one on a 3-year-old and I am so proud of myself. Possibly one of the most impressive things I've done in the recent
We've just talked about the financial guru of all that you've done.
No, it's the temporary tattoo on the 3-year-old. As she's walking, I'm holding on that stupid sponge. So didn't happen last year. So there is success and there is growth in the temporary tattoo world.
Fantastic. For all of you thinking and considering, should I get a temporary tattoo or not? There you go. Yes. There's your application.
Are you older than 3? Possibly. If you're younger than 3, no way in heck.
Maybe wait. All right. Hit it.
Gone.
Okay. Whew, here we go. All right. Chris and Sele. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun with them. Okay. What I really walked away from Chris and Sele was how important it is to ask questions of people. honestly, in us talking with them and in most of these conversations that we do, like we're genuinely surprised of like, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Cool. Follow up. Can you explain that a little bit more? And so like again, our extent of of like eating late is what, you know, Jan from The Office is like, you know, Pam, in Spain, they don't often eat until midnight.
It's Justin's nightmare to go to a dinner party where he is not fed
pretty promptly because my bedtime is a hard 7:15. I start waning. I'm like
Brendan does.
Turn back into a pumpkin.
Oh my word. Yeah, you're the night owl. I am
the night owl.
It's true. More of like your alone time starts at 7:15.
Well, and it's no. It's more again like interacting with people. Like if it's, you know, there needs to be
but that is what juices like this
I know,
culture.
That's what juices
like
you.
It does. Oh man. I always say like how you know an introvert from an extrovert is you put them in a group of people, they can act the same exact way when everybody's there, but as soon as they leave, one, can't sleep for 2 hours, and the other one is already in bed while the people are getting in their car. Like that's our world.
When we did small group in Florida, we were considering like making a banner that said
we were.
Sorry,
he was.
I was. It's like, thank you so much for coming. We love having you. Please leave by 9.
Which is so weird to me. While I'm sitting there reading my journals to my friends.
You pulled out your journals that one time?
One time. We did it multiple times.
It became that's why most of the people came to hear a reading from Stephanie's journals.
I'll do it sometime.
No, Chris and Saley. Come on, Stephanie.
My word.
Focus.
Yeah,
Here we go.
I'm sorry.
No.
You've been doing so well.
I really appreciate again, like when you can ask questions and understand, and this isn't like even true of, it doesn't have to be someone from a completely different country or culture, things like that.
Sure, absolutely.
Because everyone does come from a different culture, background, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And so to understand where they've come from, and again, why this is a theme, and we talk about this over and over and over again. This is the importance of asking questions and truly listening to where people have come from.
Right.
Because then, like, again, if you truly want to love that person, if you truly want to be a good like community member and come alongside them and encourage them, and again, whether that's a friend, a spouse, a family member, whatever it may be, like investing and building in those relationships genuinely, authentically, asking questions, you're going to understand more about that person, and then you're going to be able to love them. I mean, that goes into love languages, which was a big thing that we had to learn, that just, you know, and people will use this idea of the golden rule, which again, I think most people are familiar with, but this idea of like, do to other people as you would have it or would like to have it done to you. And I think a lot of people take that in a way that it's not really intended. I think that people will take it and saying like, okay, my love language is, let's say it's words of affirmation.
Written words of affirmation.
Well, yeah. Written words
mine.
Yes. Words of affirmation. And so if I'm like, okay, do to other people as I want it done to me, okay, therefore I need to love all these other people in the way that I like to be loved with my words of affirmation.
Right.
That's not what the golden rule is saying.
Right.
What the golden rule is saying, you know how your love language and you know how you like being loved in the way that you respond to that with words of affirmation. Great, fantastic. Find out what that other person's love language is. Is it gifts? Is it acts of service? Is it quality time? Whatever, like doing to those people what you would want done to you, which is I would want someone to love me within my love language.
Right.
And so then it's our response. And you're not going to know that unless you invest and understand and ask questions and interact authentically and genuinely and lovingly.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it's really important, especially early on in marriage, to just be very respectful of different cultures and to be respectful of where your parents really succeeded and maybe where you want to do things differently. And I think that it's very easy. I know it was in ours to say like, oh, I don't want that. Or I liked when my parents did this, whereas it's our family now, it's our unit, and it doesn't even just go for marriage. It's when you move out of your house or when you have become your own unit. You have to assess like what is healthy for me, what is healthy for me to be around. I
Yeah.
think that something that I've learned really recently is that I need to have my own inner voice, because I really adapted so many other people's voices as my inner voice, especially my mom's. And I think she would be the first to say that's not what she wants. She wants me to have my own inner voice. She raised me to be an independent woman, and so eventually. So I think that was something that was so in the past year was so life-giving, that my therapist really worked with me, is that I would have my own inner voice, that I would with Justin, monologue about what is healthy for us. And that just really helped me not go to these extremes, right? Like you witnessed it. I wouldn't have really lows when my inner voice didn't line up with my mom's external voice, or I didn't have these highs when I, thought that, and override Justin in my decision, which also happened, right? Where I would be with my family. I'd be like, we're all so excited about this. We got to do this. And Justin's like, whoa, that's not what we discussed.
Right.
Or I would come in and be like, I am the scum of the earth because, and not that either of them was my family's intention at all, but that's just the reality of our own mental health and how important it is to have boundaries and to have experiences that are because of it's our family's culture decision and not the external, because at that point they're external family, So I love them. I love Christmas with my family. I love Thanksgiving with your family. Not that we're gonna do that forever, but and we have the blessing that from my mom's house to your mom's house is exactly 24 hours apart. So it's a little different than I know some other people have. So
that's the time. That's 7 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Up next, we have episode 8. Brian and Jessica Washington. Can I just say,
oh my,
Jessica
so smart.
is so smart.
So smart.
Oh my goodness. Like, I think one of the hardest things for her to do in that episode was not to dive in and be like, let me tell you every detail of how this science works. Because she knows. She knows.
We know. Yeah, we heard just the surface of it.
Man.
And can I just say, Brian was a little hesitant doing that, and he killed it.
Brian's great.
And did so much informative stuff.
To be honest, most times the guys are kind of hesitant.
Yeah. Why is that? Is it just a protection?
Guys are the worst. I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, okay. Sorry.
No. Anyway,
Brian and Jessica.
They're awesome.
They are indeed awesome. Yes. I loved, and this was actually one of the shorts that we did. I loved what Brian was saying about cost and reward. And he said it in the context of they were talking about choices that their family makes when it comes to food. And he said maybe we don't eat out as much as other people. And so that's something that we as a family find our value, and we decide to eat at home because we can kind of control those choices and the ingredients and what goes into that. And so we can maintain more of what our values are health wise within that. Or, talking about Isaac and birthday cake and their son, who is an incredible kid. He's a great kid and really kind with Alexandria, and they're little buddies and play together. But exercising self-control and what are eating, and that's again a big kudos to Brian and Jessica that they model that. It's not just hey, you guys need to do this,
right?
And they're gorging themselves. They're very much living that out, and I think that's just a good general principle application that I think applies to all of these things with children, but especially with diet and health and exercise. And that's been a big thing for me to be hey, you need to make sure that you're doing that for your kids, because I don't really do a lot of exercise. I'll get out and play pickleball with buddies and stuff like that. And food is a big coping for me.
And celebratory and
celebratory. That's my reward for myself. So I have to be careful about that. I have to keep
Yeah.
that in balance
Mhm.
and understanding. And we'll talk about more about that with Adrian's, coping and,
Yeah.
mental health and trauma, all that stuff. But yeah, I thought that was really good. And understanding no matter what season in life you're in, no matter what phase that is. And he, again, listed a plethora of different seasons of life from college to retirement to parenting, whatever it may be. Like, you do have to be very clear about asking yourself, what do I want out of this season of life?
Mhm.
And then being very realistic of being like, okay, there's going to be a cost to this.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I want to accomplish. This is where I want to go. This is what I want to have. This is what I want to do.
Mhm.
But it's going to cost something
Yeah.
in order to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I heard recently a quote that I just thought was so good, and I just blinked on it. I'm just gonna keep
I'm sure
talking
it was
until it
super
comes
good.
to my mind.
For all you
No,
Office
it
fans
was
out there.
just it
Like,
was so
sometimes
good.
I start a sentence and so I don't exactly always know where it's
Oh, okay, I got it. I
Okay, she's
got
got
it.
it. All right,
Thank you.
I bought
Okay,
her enough time.
so I don't have the quote perfect, but it was something about like once your kid is in elementary school, the best thing that you can do is work on yourself so that you are modeling to your child what a healthy lifestyle looks like.
Mm,
And that's mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, all across the gamut, right? But I think that that's so important when it comes to physical and
like
food
dietary.
food health,
Yeah.
because I was kind of raised that eating right and exercising was for the purpose of losing weight, like,
Mm,
and that wasn't something that I think my mom meant to do, and she definitely emphasized having working out and
mhm.
having and enjoying it and all those things. But in my mind, I connected it with losing weight. And so that's something that I really, and I don't know what Alexandria is going to struggle with, specifically Alexandria,
Sure.
but maybe she will struggle with weight like my family does. We, are larger boned and all those things, but like I want her to see it from the perspective of what is best for your body, and what are
Mm,
you doing to nourish it, and what are
yeah.
you doing to take care of it for the longevity. Like, I want to be able to pick up my kids, and
Yeah.
my mom is so strong. She takes care of 3 8-month-olds right now.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that woman is so impressive. So obviously she didn't do it just to lose weight. Like, she did
Yeah.
do it for her own physical health. But
And I think there's a psychological aspect of
absolutely.
that as well, that like, as our responsibility as parents to like feed into our children positivity and understanding, like, having a healthy body image.
Mhm.
And it's not just like, oh man, you need to
Look this
be,
way
yeah,
or
you
be
need to
this
look this
way.
way, you need to be this way.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we want you to be healthy, but
Yeah.
hey, like, we love you, we're so
Right.
proud of you,
Right.
you're beautiful, you're
Absolutely.
handsome, like,
And then that could go into a whole other talk about clothing and modesty, because
yeah,
I was raised, like baggy everything, baggy.
yeah,
You don't want to show, and you too, right?
oh
You had
yeah,
to have pleated
pleated
pants.
pants, baby.
You don't want to
If
have
it
any
wasn't
woman
pleated, then
stumble down
you know
there. Oh my god, I couldn't remember. I remember the first time you wore pants that weren't pleated, and
oh yeah,
yeah,
it was so
yeah, I
scandalous.
know. And do you remember what happened?
Oh, they tore.
Yeah, you
That's right. They
split them in the
split the
back.
pan. Oh man, how much time? Oh, we only have
Oh,
28 seconds.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, when we were dating in college,
Yeah,
I
you bent over
totally.
and
They were like the most threadbare, unpleated pants from Goodwill that you could
Goodwill.
like ever
Oh, sweet boy.
find. Yes, I do.
Were they hand-me-downs or did you get them? I don't know.
I don't remember,
Anyway,
honestly.
but we just had such a bad, in the name of modesty, we had such a bad mental picture of ourselves. Like, I look back at pictures, I'm like, I was fine. And I thought that I was looking at myself. Wait.
Time.
Okay, I have to say this.
All right, fine.
Oops. I was looking at myself from a 40-year-old's perspective, right? Because those were the women,
Yes.
my Sunday school teachers, the people around me telling me, oh, don't let the guys stumble. If you have 2
Yeah.
buttons unbuttoned, don't let the guys stumble, all these things. So I realized that I had a 40-year-old mindset at 17, 18.
Wow.
And I look at those pictures of me, like, even the clothes I chose were these large, like, floral prints. Even in the 2000s or 90s, they were not cute. So I just really want my
Yeah.
kids not to be, immodest in the way of like drawing attention to themselves, but to be confident and to be
Yeah.
comfortable and to
Yes.
be appropriate, and have
That the
Mhm.
clothing choices that they wear reflect who they want to be. I mean, they say that in the business world all the time,
Mhm.
like dress for the job that you want,
Right,
not
right.
the one that you have, like how
Well,
you
I
present.
obviously want to be a 40-year-old. No. Anyway, okay, all done.
Best looking 40-year-old I know.
Man, these are great.
These are out there. People are gonna be like, bring the guests back. Bring the guests back. Okay, last one.
Okay.
Okay.
Oof.
Oh, yeah. Adrian, man.
Okay,
All
ready?
right, hit it. Hit it.
Nope.
Come on.
Really? Oh, I did it.
Okay, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Our
See,
7
it's
Oh
going.
no.
Oh my God.
We've already
You
wasted
can edit
10
that
seconds.
out.
Adrian, man.
Mm,
What a fireball. I love Adrian, especially when you get Adrian talking about like mental health in general, but especially how like the healthcare system works. Like
ooh,
he gets super passionate about it. I love it. Especially
yeah.
with what he does with Sheepdog program,
Mhm.
because like that
Yeah.
whole nonprofit that he is the like
Mhm.
founder of and CEO of,
Right.
like is specifically designated to combat that,
Yeah.
which is super cool
So
and
cool.
like so necessary
Yeah.
for
Well,
like
right.
specifically the men and women like first responders
Right.
and military and things like
I
that.
think
But
his passion for it comes from such a place of experience of being
yes,
coming alongside these men and women,
yes,
coming alongside this experience of being like, you're going to deny what now because of what?
yeah,
It's not like I'm going to get riled up because my friend on YouTube, said to. It
yeah,
is
yeah,
like so deep in him and so like it was breaking my heart to hear him talk about
yeah.
like some of these experiences that he sees so clearly because of his own story
Yes,
how he can help or how they could get help and they are literally denied because they
haven't
worked.
taken a drink
Yeah,
in
they
like the
got
past
sober.
week,
Like,
or yeah,
what the heck? And like really that's not something that we're not going to put our money into anyway. So I really respect him so much for
yeah, a
that.
lot of respect. And he didn't really go into like too much of his background. I
Unreal.
mean,
Yeah,
like
it's
a
impressive.
Purple Heart recipient,
Yeah.
um, multiple tours
Yep.
overseas.
So much damage
So,
to his
oh
body.
man, yeah, like 7, I think, explosive incidents.
Unreal.
And yeah, just an unreal guy. But here's the
Yeah.
thing with Adrian, and again, he brought this up, and I think it's so good to talk about specifically within the realm of trauma
Mm,
and understanding what trauma is and what that looks like.
yeah.
Is he's like a lot of people, if you know they're asked like, hey, have you experienced something traumatic, be like, maybe not really,
Yeah.
or you would associate it with one of those big event type traumas,
Hmm.
like some kind of abuse, whether that be physical or emotional in like a big way, like a
Even
molestation
emotional
or
is pushed down is like, oh,
yeah.
I
Okay,
but I
sorry.
wasn't,
A
you
physical,
know.
a specific incident of
Mhm.
massive physical abuse,
Mhm.
or a car accident, or
Mhm. Big time.
combat, or some. A
Mhm.
lot of times when we think of trauma, we think
Yeah,
of
or a
those
big ugly divorce
big
or like yeah.
incidents. Trauma is so much
So
bigger than
much
that,
bigger.
and I think this is part of where some people will put down mental health. It's like, well, people
Mhm.
are just whining about what's
Hmm.
going on in life.
Mhm.
It's like you
Or I
have
can
to
just talk to
realize
anybody.
every single person has different capacity for like their as Adrian so eloquently put
I
it, their
love it.
meat
Their
suit.
meat suit, yeah.
And
And the
the
chemical
cocktail of
cocktails.
chemicals
Yeah.
that are stirring and swirling in your
So
meat
good.
suit is very different for every person.
Mhm.
And so, like, this idea of chronic or acute trauma, or people who have been exposed over a long period of time
Mhm.
to emotional
Mhm.
abuse, psychological
Right.
abuse, obviously physical
Yep.
as well. Um, People who have like grief, like
Yeah.
losing a loved one in
Yeah.
an unexpected way, or even again, if you're like, that's trauma.
Yeah.
That's trauma. more so than ever with social media and so many more outlets for people to be very vocal of their opinion with fewer consequences, because it's so much easier to hide behind a keyboard and just be like,
Oh my. Right.
And there's a documentary that came out a few
Wow.
go to the documentaries, three, called, was it 15 Minutes of Shame? And it's about the idea of like how quickly people will just jump to, I think it was on HBO Max, like how quickly people will just jump to, well, sorry, just Max now.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Haven't you seen that? Where they're like,
Oh yeah.
HBO Max, now just Max.
Oh my.
Your
word.
move, Peacock.
Wow.
Do you get it?
I'm dying. Whoa.
You haven't seen that?
I guess not, or I tuned it out.
Probably,
wow.
because you're a good person.
But I'm so glad you told me about it. Oh man, so good.
It was a good one. Sorry, totally lost my train of thought. No, 15 minutes of 15 minutes of shame, and it again like talks about how easy it is.
We're totally
how easy it is to again just kind of jump to a decision or whatever, and like with cyberbullying or like losing a relationship, like dating someone or broken engagement, or like the constant like I'm not even sure the right word, like negativity or toxicity of an environment, whether that be a workplace or a family dynamic or whatever it may be, or a religious group. Yes. Like that is trauma.
Yeah.
That absolutely is trauma.
Absolutely.
And that like lives in your body.
Yeah.
And your body, was the book, The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
Like your body remembers that.
Absolutely.
And again, like our brains are incredible organs.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing.
Right.
But they have a defense system. Your brain has a defense system where if something is too overwhelming for us to deal with at that time, it goes into something like a little file called the repression file, and it's going to like store that in there, but it's still there. Even if we don't necessarily cognitively consciously remember that, it is stored in there. And so when we become exposed to certain triggers, whether it be a sight or a sound or a smell or whatever it may be, oh, that's our time.
No,
I'll finish that statement. No, but like that comes out.
Yeah.
And so much of that comes from trauma. And like a big part that we talked about with Adrian was the correlation between trauma and addiction, because there's a huge correlation between those two things. And what his frustration is, a lot of times, people won't address the obvious trauma that is fueling an addiction. So they'll deal with the addiction, but they won't deal with the underlying trauma, which is just like it's a temporary fix. Like you can hold your breath for a certain amount of time, but eventually you're gonna give into that again.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
Anyway, like I would definitely recommend people listening to that episode. I absolutely cannot do justice to that
free
one.
Therapy session.
Yeah, from a very qualified therapist.
And it just kind of helps. I've had a couple people recently say like, why pay the money for a therapist, or why can't I just talk to people, or what's the benefit of it? And I think that Adrian gives so much scientific reasons that I wasn't even aware of. And I've been in therapy, 3 years now? So like, I think that there's just so much benefit to understanding that your money is not going towards a 50-hour session. Your money is going towards the homework they give you, the processes, the coping mechanisms, the questions, the education. Oh, the education is huge. Someone just coming alongside you and saying, you're not alone, or wow, that's really hard. And that sucks that you went through that. Yeah. Because let's face it, we all are our own, like, nobody feels things as much as we feel it ourselves. And so it's sometimes hard to compare our traumas with other people, because to them, you're either downplaying it yourself and saying, oh, it wasn't that bad, or you are, unfortunately, some people downplay other people's trauma. So to have that person, that safe person who's not in your day-to-day
Yeah.
activities, who's
Yeah.
not, someone who you're gonna like run into the
Mhm.
like
Someone that, like, is legally obligated
that was
to
huge for
keep
you.
confidentiality. That
That
was a
was
huge one for
huge
me.
for you for
It was huge.
safety. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyway, I do recommend that one
Yeah.
as well. Huge.
So that was our first 7 by 7.
I think
It
we
ended up
failed.
being more of like a 7 by 7.5, maybe 8. No. So we
Yeah.
want to do more of those. So like
Yeah.
every 7 episodes that
Right.
have guests,
All right.
we're gonna do these, and
Mhm.
there'll be like kind of little mile markers along the way, so that
Yeah.
if you're like,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to listen to all the episodes, but
Right.
I'll just listen to 7 by 7s.